Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is going to be a very different Q&A to normal. Normally, I answer any and all questions. However, I have been absolutely inundated with questions about the Atomic deck, which is launching on February the 18th, which is like in 2 days' time. I believe that's the Tuesday. And I've had so many questions about the Atomic deck. So many people have been asking me a bunch of different questions that I thought what I'd do today is I'd make this a very special Q&A all about the Atomic deck, where I literally take all of your questions and answer them. Now, there will be an exposed video coming very, very soon where I'm going to literally expose the whole trick. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do that, though, because I'm currently filming this on the Tuesday. I'm heading up to Blackpool after this. I'm going to be in Blackpool for 2 weeks because Ryland's actually performing as part of Showzam the following week after Blackpool, and I don't come back until the following weekend. So I will try and film some stuff while I'm in Blackpool, but I might not be able to do an exposed video until sort of the week after. But as you know, with all of my products, I'm completely honest and upright and forthright, and I try to give you guys as much information as possible. I think I'm probably the only person that exposes their tricks. And there's a guy on the Magic Cafe called RNK. His name's Bob, and he always says, "Will you do it to make more sales?" I couldn't care less about the sales. I really couldn't. I don't create magic for the sales. I mean, it's nice to have tricks that sell really well, but the main reason for that is because that means that people like them and they're using them. I do those exposed videos so everybody can have an idea of exactly what it is they're buying. So many people said to me after I did the video on Big Blind, well, I wouldn't have bought Big Blind, but now I've seen how it works, I'm 100% going to buy it. And that's the thing. It's not about sales, but if it is causing more sales, it means the trick's good, right? Because if I'm explaining how it works and then people are buying it, that means it's a good trick. If I was explaining how the trick worked and it was terrible, then nobody would buy it. So, whatever. But there will be an exposed video coming soon. Also, we'll be back to the normal Q&A next Sunday. So, any questions that you put in to be answered on the previous Q&A, as well as any questions that you asked down below, will be answered on next week's Q&A. So we're going to have a bumper Q&A next week. It's going to be like 2 weeks worth of questions. So as normal, get your questions down below because I will get any new questions answered on next Sunday's Q&A. But like I said, this is all questions about the Atomic deck. I've literally gone through Reddit, I've gone through Facebook groups, I've gone through YouTube videos, I've gone through the Magic Cafe, I've gone everywhere. I've found every single question and I'm about to answer it as best as I can. So without further ado, let's get into the Atomic deck. Okay, so the first question number one, what is the Atomic deck? Well, that's a very good question. This right here is the Atomic deck. This is the Atomic deck. Let's just read the back of it, what to expect. The cleanest magic has ever come to the perfect ACAN. Your spectator thinks of any card and any number without ever telling you their card or number. You deal through the cards before silently stopping at one position. Impossibly, it's their thought of card, and it's at the exact position. So basically, the Atomic deck is an ACAN. It's an any card at any number. However, there's certain features that make this, at least in my opinion, the perfect ACAN. And there's no such thing as a perfect ACAN. You have to have trade-offs. And I know David from Unbiased Magic Reviews, he took offense at Murphy's and myself saying this is the perfect ACAN, it's the holy grail. That's actually what Mark Paul said. We were quoting Mark Paul, but the reason why I think it is because it fits my actual requirements for an any card at any number. I wanted to have an any card at any number where the cards could be unboxed and in the spectator's hands from the very, very beginning. I wanted to be able to have somebody apparently name any card and any number without forcing them, without any verbal forcing. I wanted them to feel like they had a completely free choice of any card at any number. I wanted to then take the cards and deal to their chosen number so they can see every single card as they go past. And I wanted to be able to then have that card turned over and show that that is their card. We also wanted to be in a situation then when they could look through the deck and not find anything at all. And that's what this does. Are there trade-offs? Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later on. There's trade-offs. There's no such thing as a perfect ACAN. There really isn't any such thing as a perfect ACAN. But for me, this is the perfect takeout. One of the features that I like the best is they never have to tell you the name of the card. They never have to tell you the number that they're thinking of at all, ever. They can think of a card, they can think of a number, you deal down to that position, and the card is at the number. That is what the atomic deck is. So that's question number one. What is the atomic deck? It's a really strong any card at any number that I've spent 4 years working on with Lloyd Barnes, Joshua Riley, and Rich Relish. Myself and Lloyd started creating the concept before the quantum deck came out. Then Rich Relish got involved because, you know, there's certain things that are involved behind the scenes that required somebody who was really, really clever with numbers. And Rich Relish, as well as being a mentalist and therefore having magical knowledge and being an incredible creator, he's also a statistician. So he was able to do that side of things. And then there's some technology involved in the atomic deck as well. And that's where Joshua Riley came in. So it's kind of a perfect storm. But that is the atomic deck. Okay, so question number 2. How different is it to the quantum deck? How different is it to the quantum deck? The working title for the atomic deck for the first couple of years was the quantum deck 2. Not because it really had anything to do with the quantum deck, but just because there's one thing that happens in the atomic deck that kind of was developed first in the quantum deck. So we took that one thing and we used that as a starting point to create the atomic deck. So, you know, that's why when I was referring on this channel to the quantum deck too, I was referring to the atomic deck, and that's because it was his working title at the time. How is it different to the quantum deck? In many, many ways. So first of all, obviously the quantum deck it's a blank deck. So the whole idea behind the quantum deck is there's one card printed in the deck, they name a number, you deal, and the card at that position is the card that they're thinking of. There's only one printed card in the deck. That's what the quantum deck is. This is obviously a very different thing because from the audience's point of view, even though it's a gaff deck, it looks like a completely regular deck of cards. And because of that, they can name any card and they can name any number. And I think that's the big difference. No, you don't have the blank kicker. But with the quantum deck, it wasn't really truly an A-can. It was a can. It was a card at any number. Now, I went through on the tutorial many different ways to turn it into an A-can and how to actually limit the choices of the cards or have somebody pick a card from another deck. And there were various different ways. But at its core, it was a card at any number, and that's how I presented it. I have one card printed in this deck. It is the King of Hearts. I'm not going to tell you where it is. Your job is to actually find out where it is. So it was a card at any number. Well, this is an any card at any number because they can name any card and they can name any number and the card will appear at that number. The other big difference between the quantum deck and this is we eliminated maths and memory work, which were two of the biggest issues that people had with the quantum deck. Now, the quantum deck was very popular and very well received, and a lot of people perform it all the time now. I know I do. But one of the big problems was there was a little bit of maths involved, and there was a little bit of memory work involved. I don't have a problem with either of those things, but a lot of people did. So we eliminated with this the maths and we eliminated the memory work. So that's the other big difference. So we eliminated the maths, we eliminated the memory work. There's a lot of other differences that we'll get to, I'm sure, as we go through these questions. But yeah, it's a completely different beast. It's absolutely nothing like the quantum deck in any way, shape or form. Oh, the other thing is the quantum deck had a range. And if it was outside of that range, you had to do a shift or, you know, there are various different ways to get yourself into range, but you had to do some sort of move. Now, rarely did people name a number outside of range, but it could happen with this. There isn't really a range as such. You know, it's not like you say, well, if you get over 30, it's not going to work. That's not the case here. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Okay, so question number 3 is, will you do an exposed video? And the answer is yes, obviously. I've just said that. I will be doing an exposed video. I will be breaking down how this works. I'm not too sure when I'm going to be able to do that, though, because, as I said, I'm leaving for Blackpool straight after filming this video. I then am going to be at Blackpool for pretty much 2 weeks. And then when I come back, I've got an illusion show. And then I'm going to have to come back into the office because I'm going to have been out for 2 weeks. So everything's going to be all over the place. But I am going to try and get onto that exposed video as soon as possible. Ideally, by the end of February, I'm going to try and get it out, if not a little bit earlier. But it obviously just depends on what I've got on when I get back from Blackpool. Okay, so question number 4, and this is one that comes up an awful lot. Is there maths or memorization with the atomic deck? So do you have to memorize anything? because the cards are stacked. They're in a particular stack. So do you have to memorize the stack? No, you don't. Not at all. Do you have to memorize anything at all? No, there's no memory work at all, and there's no mathematics at all involved. That was one of the things that we spent a long time coming up with. There's no maths and there's no memorization. And the reason there's no maths and there's no memorization is because we've got various different ways of giving you that information during the course of the routine, which we'll talk about in a bit during the Q&A. But no, there is no maths, there is no memorization at all. You can literally just pick up the deck and you'll be able to do it almost straight away after getting it out of the box. Once you understand the methodology behind it, you'll be good to go. Okay, so the next question that has come up an awful lot is, do I need to use the website on the Spectator's phone as part of the presentation? The answer is no, but let me explain why the website's there. So how the atomic deck works is, and this is kind of crazy to get your head around, but how the atomic deck works is you can have the spectator think of any card or name any card. You can have the spectator think of any number. And when they name the card and the number, there is an 89 point something % chance that that card and that number you will be able to get to without any manipulation of the deck at all. There's just under a 90% chance of any card being at any position in the deck, and that's because of a few different factors. That's because of the stack that's in play. That's because of the design and the construction of this deck, which is revolutionary, and you won't have seen anything like this before. And that's because of a bunch of other things that we can get into later. But basically, because of the construction of the deck and because of how the deck works, you have just under a 90% chance of any card being at any number in the deck. Now, that brings up two problems, which you're probably thinking of right now. The first problem is, okay, so that means just over 10% of the time it's not going to work. And the second problem is, how do I know how to get to that card and that number? What do I have to do to make sure that that card and that card is always at that number in that 90% of the time? Which is a great question. And that's where the website comes in. If you saw me perform on the Penguin Holiday Special, or you've seen a couple of the performances that, a couple of the early performances that Murphy's have come up with, you'll probably have seen me using a website. So the whole idea of this website, which was developed by Joshua Riley, it's designed to look like a very simple, basic website that would be set up by students. And these students it's designed to be a very simple website for university research into playing card probability. And it allows you, if you've seen the presentation and you'll know what I'm talking about, you kind of say, look, I want you to think of a card, I want you to think of a number, but I want it to be a combination of card and number that's not commonly named. For example, the Queen of Hearts is very popular. A lot of people name Queen of Hearts. A lot of people will also name number 7. So the combination of Queen of Hearts and 7 comes up a lot more than other combinations. And I don't want you going home later and saying, well, everybody thinks of that card and that number. So we're going to fact check what's inside your head. I want you to go onto this website, put in the card you're thinking of, put in the number you're thinking of, and it'll tell you how likely it is for that particular combination to be named. You see, they have thousands of people going onto this website, and it keeps track of everything. And by you going onto this website, it's going to keep track of your information as well. You're adding to that research in real time. Now, I love that presentation. I've been doing that presentation for 2 years. I love that presentation for a bunch of different reasons. It's different to, let me show you the Holy Grail, the any card at any number. It's very, very different to that. It kind of really interests people, and also, more importantly, and you'll see this in the live performances on the tutorial, the other thing it does is, and this is kind of interesting, they find it more impressive because they're going onto this website to check to make sure their card and their number isn't a very commonly named card and number combination. At the end, they'll be like, I can't believe it. It was impossible. I made it almost impossible for you. So it becomes even more impressive. And that's why I like the presentation. So the website is there. And that's how you present it. And what the website does basically is, if it's one of that 10% where it doesn't work, it throws up a percentage of more than 5%. somewhere between 5 and 7%, it'll throw up a percentage of. So when they put in their card and their number and they press the green button, as they're doing that, you say, now I want to make this impossible. So I want you to try and find a combination of card and number that's really has a very low percentage chance of appearing together, like maybe something less than 5%. You know, and you can change your mind as many times as you want to. Now, by saying that, and here's what happens. If they put in a card and a number and the percentage is over 5%, they'll automatically, without saying anything to you, they'll change the card or the number and they'll get it to a lower percentage and they'll be like, yeah, I've got one. And it feels even fairer to them because they've changed their mind. But even if they said, oh, this combination is 6%, you go, oh, we'll change something of it. Change the suit or the number or the value because you want to have it less than 5%. And they go, yeah, okay. It feels even fairer because you're allowing them to change their mind. And one of the things you'll see in the live performances is a lot of people say to me, I could have changed my mind. I did change my mind. I can't believe I changed my mind and yet still it worked. That's amazing. So the website makes sure that, now, as I say, that's only 10% of the time. 90% of the time, it's just going to be in range automatically. And they'll go, yep, and it's absolutely fine. But if it's less, but if it's in that 10%, it's absolutely not an issue. Now, the other thing that the website does is the percentage. You then, let's say they go, yeah, I've got one. The percentage tells you everything that you need to know. So you go, well, what's the percentage? And they go, well, it's 0.10%. And that tells me, just by hearing what the percentage is, it tells me everything I need to know about what to do with the deck. Just by hearing the percentage, I know exactly what to do. I just need to take the cards out of the deck, and now I can deal, which is just exceptional. It's great. It's great. It's really, really good. So it means that... it means that I don't have to worry about anything. I can just literally hear that percentage, and as soon as I hear that percentage, it tells me a few things. It tells me if I have to deal from the top or the face of the deck. It tells me you know, what I need to do within the deal to actually make it happen. And the other thing it does, it actually even tells me the number they're thinking of as well. Now think of the possibilities behind that. Imagine for a minute that you have somebody that you're performing to, and they you know, they go on the website and, you know, they go, right, and they go, what's the percentage? And they go 1.2345% or whatever it is. And you go, brilliant. Okay, awesome. Now you can say, now I know everything. I know where to deal from, I know what to do, and I know their position in the deck, which is amazing. So now I can say, look, I tell you what, don't even tell me the number. I'm just going to deal cards onto the table, and I just want you to think stop when I get to your number. Just think stop. So they think stop, and then I know what their number is. So if their number's 20, as I deal the 19th card, before I deal the 20th, I go, are you thinking stop right now? And they go, yeah. And you go, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, okay, yeah, I could feel you thinking stop. I tell you what, think of the card. Now, the other thing about this deck that I didn't tell you is Lloyd Barnes developed a really cool marking system for this deck. So you can see the cards so clearly, they're marked so clearly. So because of that, when I'm at that position, that 20th position, I can look down and I'll immediately know what their card is. So before I turn that card over, and I can go, now think of the card. Did you pick the 5 of spades? And they go, yeah. And you go, that's amazing. Think about this. You thought of any card, you thought of any number. We dealt down, you thought stop, I got the number. Now I've got the card. The crazy thing is your card is at that number. And then I turn the card over, and it's the card at the number that they're thinking of is their card. I mean, that's a reputation-making, game-changing, absolutely incredible barn-busting effect right there. And all I need to do is just hear the percentage. They just need to tell me the percentage, which is a logical thing to do. And when they tell me the percentage, I immediately know all that information. And as I say, if in very rare occasions it's out of range, the website automatically sorts that out. So in answer to the question, which was, do I need to use the website? No, and I'll go into other ways of doing it in a minute, but the website's my absolute favorite way of doing it because the presentation makes sense. I don't need to worry about anything. I don't need to think about anything. Boom, I've got that information straight away. The other thing is, if I'm performing to a group of 3 or 4 people, let's say I'm doing close-up and I'm performing it to a group, oh my gosh, that's even better because I can get each one of them to check on the website, and I can have every single one of them to put in a card and a number, and I can go, right, who's got less than 5%? Like, let's say 3 of the 4 of them put their hands up. I go, brilliant. between you. Who would you like to, which one should we use? Have a look at your cards and your numbers and decide between you which one should we use. You right there. Okay, fantastic. What percentage have you got? 2.16. Oh, wow, that's small. That's a very small percentage. Okay, let's do that. And now I've got everything. But now it feels like every single person has been involved. The other reason I like using the website is because I perform a lot on stage. Now imagine this. Imagine walking out on stage in front of 500 people. You want a stage piece? This is the best stage piece you can ever do. Imagine saying, we're going to try something very interactive. You go through the presentation, you put the deck on the table, you get a CEO or a VIP to stand next to you, and you say, look, I'm going to put that deck there, we're not going to touch it. You then have everyone in the audience think of a card and a number and go onto the website. You can even have a big QR code they can scan if you want them to. They put in the card and the number and you go, right, everyone stand up if you've got less than 5%. And you've got hundreds of people in an audience standing up. You then say to your VIP, all of these people have a less than 5% chance of that card appearing at that position in the deck. Point to one of them. So they point to one of them and you go, everyone else sit down. We've not set this up. I don't know your card. I don't know your number. What percentage chance is the card of being at that number? 0.13. That's a really low percentage. And then take the deck out, or the deck can be out from the beginning, and I just deal. I say, what's the number? And they say, and I deal. And then the CEO is standing next to me, and I just hold the card here. And I say, right, you've not said your card at all. For the first time, what's the name of the card? And they say, 7 of diamonds, and you turn it around, and it's the 7 of diamonds. And you've never had that card said out of hundreds of people, every single person thinking of a different card and a different number. One person in the audience has that 7 of diamonds, has thought of the 7 of diamonds or whatever, and it's that one. The CEO reacts, and then I turn it around to everyone else in the audience. That's why this is in every single stage show I do. This is in every single stage show I do because it's such an interactive way of performing this trick. You know, one of the things that you have to do as a stage performer when you're performing on stage, and I know there's reviewers that, you know, are going to be reviewing this that haven't really got necessarily much experience performing on stage, but as somebody who has got a lot of experience, I can tell you right now, one of the most important things is to make it interactive. We strive to make this trick interactive to as many people as possible. And that's what this does. Every single person in the audience can be involved. Imagine doing this on a Got Talent show and every single person in the audience is involved, and then you get Simon Cowell to point to any one of them that's standing up. It's a killer. So that's why I like to use the website. Now, some people might go, well, you know, it's a little bit convoluted for me. I don't want people to go on their phones. I don't want people to go onto a website. Although it's justified, I don't want people to go onto the website. And that's absolutely fine. There's other input methods. But for me, that's my favorite way of doing it, especially on stage. So do I need to use the website? Absolutely not. You don't need to use the website. But I actually really like using the website for that reason. Okay, so the next question is, so what are the other input methods? That's the next question. What are the other input methods? And I think what we mean there is what are the other ways that we can input? Because basically what the website is doing is it's acting as an electronic crib. Because if you were going to have this information cribbed to you, the crib would be the size of a building. Well, probably not that big, but it'd be a massive crib. You wouldn't be able to carry a crib around with you. So it's an electronic crib. It's basically a way of giving you this information in real time. Well, how else can you do that? Well, we've got 2 other methods that we teach on the tutorial as well. And honestly, there's live performances of me using all 3 of these methods. Now, the first method is what we call the video input method. And how the video input method works is I bring my phone out and I put it down on the table. And I say, in a second, I'm going to get you to film this if you can, because you're not going to believe this. I'll airdrop it with you. I might even share it on my social media if that's okay, because this is absolutely incredible. And I put the deck down in front of me and I say, right, okay, can you do me a favor? Can you name a card and name a number? And you say to somebody, name a card and a number. Now, when they name the card and the number, you pick up the phone and you make it look like you're unlocking the phone, but you're actually inputting, using the video input method, you're inputting the card and the number into your phone. And what it does is it comes up with everything that you need to know. So it comes up with the same information that you would get off the website, but it gives you that on your phone. And then you can immediately, press a button and it will switch to your video. You just swipe over and it'll switch to your video camera. And then you give them the video camera. So think about that for a point of view for a second. Think about that. So you put the deck down on the table, you introduce your phone, you show the camera is on, and then you put the phone on the table, you have someone name a card, you have someone name a number, and then you say, right, okay, I'm going to get you to video this. And you open up your phone, put in the thing, and you give them the phone, they film it, and then you deal, and the card is at that number. Now, that's incredibly strong. Absolutely incredibly strong. It is justified use of your phone, right? Because and for anybody who likes getting footage for social media, this is a great way of doing it, because it's going to give you a ton of social media content. Now, you might be thinking, well, okay, with the video input method, the problem here is, well, what happens if it's in the 10%? That's not going to work, and you're absolutely correct. And this is where we go through on the project, and Pete Turner spends a long time talking about this, reframing. So what I mean is, the presentation would be something like this. So you put your phone down and you say, in a second, I'm going to get you to video something, because you're not going to believe this. You're going to want to keep it forever. I'm going to have someone name a card. I'm going to have someone name a number. And then I'm going to show you something incredible with this deck that's been on the table the whole time. And I promise I won't change the order of the cards, okay? Now, here's the thing. A lot of the time when you have someone name a card and a number, they tend to go for very common cards and numbers. And that happens an awful lot. So I might get you guys to change your mind a few times, maybe. So now you have someone name a card. And I like to do it like this. I say, can you name a suit? Great. Now can you name a value? Great. Now can you name a position in the deck? Brilliant, fantastic. Now that's a free choice, right? And you had a free choice, and now all I'm doing is I'm making it look like I'm opening my phone, but I'm inputting it. Now if it's out of range, it will tell me, right? If it's out of range, it'll tell me. So I'm now holding the phone, I've got the camera up, and I go, actually, I completely forgot. Before I actually do this, I said I was going to get you to change your mind, didn't I? So I tell you what, we'll get you to change here's the thing, you can change the suit, you can change the value of the card, you can change the number, you can change all three of them, you can just change one of them. What would you like to do? I'm going to change the number. What would you like to change it to? Boom. Okay, are you sure? Yeah. Okay, is that fair? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Now you pick your phone up again and you go, now think about this. You first of all thought of that number, then you thought of that number, and I've got the information in front of me, and that's absolutely fine, and I'm all good, and it's great. And so now I can hand the thing and I can go, boom. And it's even more impressive. If you watch the performances, regularly people go, I changed my mind. I changed my mind and it still worked. Presentationally, having them change their mind or having somebody else change a piece of information they've just given becomes even more impossible. It's a really strong way of doing it. Now, statistically, it's almost, I've never had it in 4 years of working with this, and I don't think nobody else in the team has had it that's been workshopping it. But, is there a small chance that if they change something again, it's not going to work and it's still going to be in the 10%? Yeah, absolutely. That's a chance. Very unlikely, especially if you just get them to change the position. But if that happens, you can just go, oh, okay, I want to get you to have a go as well. Okay, I want to get you to try and change something as well. So you picked a card and a number, you changed it, I want you to change it as well. Now, I've never had to do that, but that's what you would do in that scenario. So that's the first way of doing it, the video input method. Now, Lloyd's favorite way of doing it, in fact, everyone's favorite way of doing it other than me, is to use the Notes app. So Joshua Riley developed a web app for the Atomic Deck. And I was speaking to Joshua about this. There's very few tricks that combine an app with a physical product, which is what's happening here, because you've got the physical thing and you've also got a web app. Now, this web app you install on your phone, and it's a very simple web app, and what it does is it replicates your notes page. So the notes page is replicated, and what you do, this is the other input method. So you say, you bring your phone out and you put the deck down on the table and you say, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you name a card and a number, okay? And you can name any card and any number you want to. It's completely free choice. Just so you know you don't forget it, I'm just going to pop it in here so we can refer back to it, the amount of times people forget their card. And that's true. In this day and age, a lot of people use their notes page to make notes on stuff. It's not like you're using it for a peek. It's not like you're getting them to write the card in, but you're not going to see it, because that kind of would be weird. Right, write your card in my phone, but I don't want to see it. You're openly just writing it down so nobody forgets it. So you go, right, okay, name a card. 6 of spades. Okay, we'll put 6 of spades in there. That way we won't forget it. Give me a number. And they can put it in the phone if you want. So you can give them the phone. They can write in 6 of spades or any variation thereof. 6 spades, 6 of spades, 6 spades, 6, SIX, 6. You can have a little emoji, anything that you want to. There's lots of different ways that we've inputted it. But then they put the number, right? And then they give you the phone back, or you take the phone and you show it and you go 6 of spades, number 21, for example. Now, all you have to do is hold your thumb down at the bottom left corner, and what it does is it brings up a piece of secret information that tells you everything that you need to know. So as soon as you've wrote the number down, you just press with your thumb, you look at the thing, and I've got the information. Now I can turn it back round and put it face up on the table. That information's only there when I press and hold my thumb down on the notes page. So now I've got that secret information. Excuse me. So because I've got that secret information, I can just pick up the deck and deal. So if you don't want to get websites involved, or you don't want to get your phone out and have people video it, you don't have to. You can literally just bring out your phone and use it as a pad. Right, 6 of spades, boom, 21, boom. And again, it's the same thing if it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, you'll know, it'll tell you immediately. And the really cool thing with this is, let's say it doesn't work. And you go, right, okay, I forgot. Let's change a piece of information. What do you want to change? I want to change the suits and spades to diamonds. You can then just literally have them delete spades, type in diamonds, or put a little diamond emoji or something. And then when you take it back, it will update that secret information. So now I know it works. I put the phone down on the table, or I give them the phone. It absolutely makes no difference. And I deal, and it goes to that... and it goes to that card, and that card's there. So that way, there's less procedure. If you want your magic to be more direct, then the web app is the one to go for, and it just sits on your phone, and when you open it, it just opens up and replicates a notes page, and you can just literally put your card and your number in there, and it's going to give you all the information you need. And it's very justified, because the amount of people, if you say, I'm going to have you name a card and a number, and I know the amount of times people forget their card or the number, because it's a lot of information to remember, so I'll just pop it in here, and that way you're not going to forget it, and you can hold on to my phone, and if you forget it, you can look. Okay, brilliant. And now you're done. You've got everything that you need. So those are the 3 main input methods, but there's a masterclass on the project with Pete Turner, where he talks about his thoughts on ACAN, and he talks about other ways that you can actually get that information. He's got, and I'm not going to go into all of that now, but I mean, he's got some great ideas, including working one ahead, but not within the trick, but within your act. So for example, you can give people the atomic deck and just say, put that in your pocket for me if you can. We'll get back to it later. Can you name a card and a number? Brilliant. Okay. Now, during the course of your set, you have a reason to look in your phone. It could be, for example, using digital force bag or anything else. But you have a reason to look in your phone. And when you look in your phone, you've got the you get the peak. And if you need to reframe them, at that point you go, what was your card again? Change it. Okay, you'll see why later, but change it. Brilliant. And then, you know, you're using your phone for whatever it is that you're doing a completely different trick unrelated to that, and so they've changed it, and you go, brilliant. Okay, so then, you know, you've got the card and the number, and you say at the very end, you go, by the way, I gave you that pack at the very beginning, didn't I? Can I take that pack back? Brilliant. And you were thinking of a number. You changed your mind a few times, didn't you? And then you were thinking of a card. You changed your mind a few times. What did you end up on? Okay. And these cards are being here with you from the very beginning of the act, yeah? Let me just take them out. Boom, 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 done. And that's one of many methods that Pete goes through. The point is, to answer the question, yes, there are multiple input methods. Multiple input methods. You pick the one that's best for you. I know that there's a few reviewers online that kind of made assumptions about the trick before even kind of knowing everything about the trick, and we're like, well, hang on, the website's ridiculous. Who would want to go on a website? Well, if you think the website's ridiculous, don't go on it. I don't think it's ridiculous. I love it. I've been booked for some of the biggest gigs in the world. In fact, I'm not going to say who. Based on the stage presentation of this trick, I had a very well-known magician want to offer me a lot of money to not bring this to market and give them the exclusive rights to perform every night in their stage show. And I said no. But that's based not on any other input other than the website input and how strong it is doing it in a stage show. So there you go. You pick the input method that works best for you. Okay, so the next question is, can you examine the deck? And the answer is, to a point. Not if you're a magician. If you were a magician and I did this trick on you and then gave you the deck, within a few seconds you'd realize exactly what's going on, if not immediately. This is not designed to fool magicians, really. This is, as everything is that I produce, this is designed to work for real people in a real environment. Now, you are going to see numerous videos If you go look at the video Lloyd Barnes did on this, he showed a few clips. You're going to see numerous videos going online where I literally give people the deck and they spread through the deck and they look through the cards and they check the cards and they look through them. And a lot of the time I say to them, take the deck, have a look through, check the deck, make sure the deck's okay. And that's because this deck can be examined. Because of the construction of the deck, all they're going to do is they're going to spread through. And they're not going to see anything. And you'll see that over and over again. I encourage you to watch the video that Lloyd did with Kaylee, who's got a fair bit of magical knowledge, and she held the deck for like 10, 15 minutes and didn't see anything. I am absolutely comfortable putting this in the hands of a layperson, and they will not see anything at all. I even, and you'll see this on videos as well, I deal the cards into their hand and I have them hold their hands out and I deal the cards in their hands and then I just leave the cards in their hands. There's nothing for them to find. So yes, absolutely, you can leave this in the spectators' hands. They can examine them. Some people might be nervous doing that. I encourage you to go and try it. But to magicians, no, don't do that. Or, you know, they're going to immediately know what the deck is, but a layperson won't. Okay, this is kind of a weird one. This was brought up by David from Unbiased Magic Reviews. He said that the more spectators you perform this on, the more chance they have of examining the code behind the website, which is kind of weird. I mean, that's never even a thing that I thought would become an issue for anybody. You know, if your spectators are watching you perform a trick and then they're going onto the website when they get home later on and they're analysing the website and breaking down the code, one, I don't think it would mean anything to them because it's just a ton of statistics behind the screen. But two, you're kind of performing the trick wrong. If you've got people that are literally wanting to go onto the website and examine the code behind the website, I just can't imagine anybody wanting to do that. If they're that interested in learning the method, first of all, they don't think the website's got anything to do with it. The website is literally used, excuse me, as a presentational tool to make sure that everyone's got a really low percentage chance of a card appearing at a number. The trick is actually with the deck that's on the table. If anybody was that desperate to want to know how the trick worked and want to look at the deck, the website doesn't become part of the trick in any way, shape or form. But, you know, if they're getting home and wanting to look at the website, you're performing it wrong. But if that is an issue, if somebody is watching this and they're concerned about a spectator wanting to look at the code on the website when they get home, then use a different input method. Use the notes page input method or the video input method or one of the other many input methods that we talk about. But that's really, honestly, not an issue. Okay, so the next question has come up quite a few times. Is it repeatable? And the answer is yes. If you go watch Lloyd Barnes' video where he performed it to Kaylee, he did it twice. And many times I'll do it twice. A lot of the times I'll do it twice. Now, I don't do it, when I'm gigging, I don't do it twice. But a lot of the time I have done it twice. It's one of the tricks that holds up a second time. Now, if you were going to do it twice, excuse me, if you were going to do it twice, the only thing that I would suggest is that you give the deck a false cut and a false mix first. Because as you're dealing the cards face up, you don't want to have a spectator that memorised that the Ace of Hearts was in the 3rd position, for example. And then later on they name Ace of Hearts at 20 and it's the 20th position. That would be weird, right? So I would give the deck a mix and I'd say, yeah, I can do it again, but let me just give the cards a couple of cuts first and just give them a bit of a mix, make sure they're all mixed up. That is what I would do. But then, yeah, you can absolutely repeat it if you want to. Not a problem at all. Okay, so the next question's come up. Very good question. What if there is no internet? So what if there is no internet? So what if, you know, you get to a gig. I go to gigs quite a lot that's in the middle of nowhere and you want to do this trick and you want the spectators to take out their phone and access the website and there's no internet. Well, there's a couple of different solutions to that. First of all, the web app is completely offline. So if that becomes an issue, you can just use the Notes app input. And also, you can actually take the website, unistats.org, and you can actually have that as a web app on your phone as well. So if you're wanting to do the website version because you like that presentation like I do, and nobody's got any internet, you can go, oh, I've got a little bit of internet. Here, you can use my phone, and you can open up the web app, and it'll replicate the Unistats website, but offline, so you don't need to actually access any Wi-Fi or any internet or anything. So if there's no internet, there's a couple of different options. It's honestly not an issue. Okay, so the next question is, will the Notes app, the app that replicates the Notes page, will it be available on Android and Apple? And the answer is yes. You can access it on Android or Apple. It's completely up to you. It's a web app, so it's not like you have to go into the App Store or the Google Play Store to download it. That's not how this works. You access it. You access a particular website that we give you in the instructions, and you download it directly onto your phone, and then it creates an app on your phone. So yeah, you can. It'll be available. Yeah, absolutely not a problem. And that means that the functionality is always going to be there as well. Okay, so the next question is, can the deck be shuffled before the trick starts? If you want to. I honestly wouldn't. Because for me, the perfect ACAN, if the perfect ACAN exists, is to take the deck, spread it, and have it unboxed on the table. That's for me is the perfect ACAN. Okay, that right there is the perfect ACAN. And then they name the card, they name the number, and they deal. Could you mix this up? Absolutely. You can do some false cuts if you want to. I wouldn't do any serious. You can do this sort of stuff, not a problem. All of this, whatever you want to do, is absolutely fine. There's certain shuffles that would work fine. There's certain shuffles that wouldn't work. I wouldn't do any sort of bridge full shuffles or anything like that because of the construction of the deck. But in terms of this deck itself, absolutely, yes, you can shuffle the deck 100%, or you can mix the deck. You can give it a false mix. It needs to stay in the same order. All of these are false mixes, obviously. But if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. And if you're practicing it and you do a false mix and it goes out of order, the other thing that we did, I talked about how these cards are marked. They're actually marked in two places. They're marked with the card, so you can see the card straight away, but they're also marked with very small numbers in the top left. And you can barely see those numbers. You can see them, but they're barely noticeable because you only need them if you accidentally shuffle the deck or if you drop the deck on the floor, because it would be quite hard to put this deck back into order. So these numbers are just literally the stack positions of the cards. So if you shuffle the cards or you mix them up and you drop them on the table, you can just go through these cards and just put them back into order, and then you're back up and running again. So yes, the deck can be shuffled before you start, but honestly, I wouldn't bother. Okay, so the next question is, can the deck be shuffled before the trick starts? Oh, sorry, no, that's that's that question. Sorry. The next question is, do you always have to deal from the top, or sometimes do you have to deal from the face of the deck? And that's a great question. And no, sometimes you do have to deal from the face of the deck, which was part of the methodology behind the original Burglass effect. When David Burglass created the Burglass effect, that was part of his methodology. The exact statistics, I think, are 80% of the time you deal from the top, 20% of the time you deal from the face. It's something like that. So predominantly it'll be from the top, but that's really not an issue. There's a couple of different ways of dealing with it. Pete on the project goes through so many different ways of justifying dealing from the face. So many different ways. You know, one of the things he does is really nice. He says he'll have the cards like this, and he'll say, right, okay, do you want me to deal face up or face down? And if they say face up, he just does this, and he starts dealing. And dealing off the face and turning them face down. And if they say face down, you say, okay, I'll take it and I'll turn them over like this, face down, one at a time. Is that okay? And they go, yeah. The other thing that you can do, and there's lots of different ways, I'm not going to go into all of the different methods behind that to justify it, but you can leave the cards in the case. Now, I like to have the cards out from the beginning because I like to show that the cards have been unboxed from the beginning. But if you want to, you can have the deck in the case and they name the card and the number, and if you have to deal from the face, you just take the cards out like this. And they're already face up. You go, great, I'm not going to change the order. I'm just going to pick them up and I'm going to deal. And it's nice when you deal face up. I actually prefer it face up in many ways because let's say they've picked the 6 of hearts. As you're dealing face down like this, they see the cards coming into position. You see that card coming into position. So they see it ahead of time and anticipate it, which is really cool. So yeah, occasionally you will have to deal from the face. It's not very often, but you do, but it's completely justified. Okay, the next question is, what if English is not my native language? What do I do about the input method? That's a great question. So if English is not your native language, obviously the website is in English, but you can actually justify that by saying, hey, there's these university students in America and they've set up this website for playing card probability and statistical analysis. Go onto that website now. All they need to know is selecting a card and a number, so they shouldn't have a problem with that. And then the percentage is given to you as a percentage. However, the other thing is with the web app, with the Notes app, that is in whatever language you want it to be in, because to set that up, you take a screenshot of your own notes page. So any language will work. I spoke to Joshua Riley about this because somebody asked this question on the cafe, and Josh was like, yeah, any language will work perfectly fine. So it doesn't matter what language that you speak or where you are in the world, it's a non-issue. Okay, so the next question is there sleight of hand? And the answer is no, there is no sleight of hand at all. I know a lot of ACANs involve like cutting the deck secretly when you know the position and the card. So one of the best ACANs of all time is Assy Wins ACAN. It's not an easy ACAN to do. You've got to do a move, and I was always not that great at that move, to be honest, but you've got to do a move exactly when the spectators aren't looking. There's a lot of mental calculations. With this, there's no sleight of hand. You put the deck on the table and you just deal. Because of the construction of the deck, it's actually so easy to do what you need to do. It's a lot easier than anything else that I've seen before because of the construction of the deck. So, I've taught this to people who have got no experience in sleight of hand, and they've been able to do it in sort of 10 or 15 minutes from me explaining how it works. It's not a difficult thing to do at all. If you're new to Magic, it's really not an issue. You'll be able to do this. Okay, so the next question is, what is the reset? Well, the reset's pretty much instant. So unless you accidentally mix up the deck, the reset is pretty much instant, because what's happening is you're dealing the cards face up like this, right? So a lot of the time, you just show them the card, and then you put these back up on here, you reset to ready to go again. So it's an instant reset. It's why you can do it again. It's why it's repeatable. So the reset is pretty much instantly. I know Bob RNK on the Magic Cafe made a comment earlier on in the or a question earlier on, a statement saying, hey, you obviously can't spread the cards face up after you've performed the trick. Yes you can. In fact, I do. After the trick's been finished, I just spread the cards face up and everybody sees the deck. There's no reason. They're not going to see anything. If they spread through the deck, or you give them the deck and they look through it this way, they're not going to see anything. There's nothing to see. It just looks like a deck of cards. They're not going to see any duplicates or anything like that. It will look like a deck of 52 playing cards. So the next question is there rough and smooth? And the answer is no. There is no rough and smooth on the atomic deck at all. There's no rough and smooth. There's no chemicals in any way, shape or form. They come off the printing press and they are immediately put into the boxes with no chemicals sprayed during the printing process, before the printing process, or after the printing process. Nothing is added to those cards. However, Murphy's developed a new technique, which I think you'll be seeing with a lot of products moving forwards, because this is actually revolutionary, that replicates some of the properties of rough and smooth, but without having any rough and smooth, which means that it's so much easier to work. It's so much easier to do. But yeah, this replicates rough and smooth, but there's, if you were here and looking at this deck, it would feel just like a normal deck, and that's because it is a normal deck. But some of the properties of rough and smooth have been replicated. Now, one of the advantages of this is it means that these cards will last forever. When you're using a rough deck and the roughing goes after a while and you have to re-rough it, that won't happen with this. And the reason I know is because I've spent 3 years checking. I've been using the same deck for a very, very long time, because that was one of the concerns. We could have brought this out a lot earlier, but we were doing rigorous testing to make sure that it was exactly what we needed it to be, which it was. So yeah, there's no rough and smooth at all. There's no chemicals. However, there is a principle at play that you won't have seen before that has certain similarities to rough and smooth, but it's so much better. Okay, so another question is, why is this better? Why is the atomic deck better than a regular deck method? And look, I'm not saying it is. I know that there's people out there that have said, oh, Murphy and Craig are saying this is the Holy Grail. I do think this is the Holy Grail, and a lot of the biggest names in Magic also think this is the Holy Grail. But, there's no such thing as a perfect ACAN. There really aren't. And this is true of anybody. When you're creating magic, what you have to do is you have to kind of decide what you're happy to during the creative process. You have to kind of work out what you're happy to not include. For example, with an ACAN, there's certain rules that Mark Paul put across, which is any card can be named, any number can be named. The deck is on the table from the very beginning. It's unboxed on the table from the very beginning. There is no shift or movement of the cards in any way, shape or form. And then the spectator picks up the deck and deals to the position, and there's no false dealing and no bottom dealing. They deal to the position and the cards at that position. Okay, and then you can show the cards. Well, out of all of those rules and stipulations, the only one we didn't manage to hit, and this is the drawback of the atomic deck. I'll tell you the drawback right now. You have to do the dealing. You have to do the dealing. You can give them the deck. They can hold on to the deck if you want them to. They can hold on to the deck. You have the card and the number named, and then you deal. And you have to, but you have to do the deal yourself. Now, when you deal, and I'm actually doing everything that I need to do now, the deal can be this slow. It can be really slow. They can burn your hands. They're not going to see anything in any way, shape or form. They're not going to see a thing. However, you are going to have to deal. You are going to have to do the dealing yourself. But that's the only drawback as far as I'm concerned. So why is this better than a regular deck method? Well, for me, it's better than a regular deck method because I can put I can give this deck to the spectator unboxed in their hands right now. I can have the card and the number named, and I can just take the deck back. I can deal the cards into the spectator's hand. Their card is there. I don't have to do a move as I'm taking cards out of a box. I don't have to memorize a stack. I don't have to do mental gymnastics in my head. I don't have to do anything like that. I just have to deal. And normally with a lot of ACANs, you're having to position the card in the deck, or it's not a true ACAN and they're not naming any card. With this, they're naming any card and any number. So the drawback is you have to deal. Now, the other drawback that you could say is that 10% of the time it won't work. But for me, that's not a drawback at all, because that allows it to become an even better trick as far as I'm concerned. So if I put that into the spectator's hands, and then I have somebody, let's say I'm using the notes method, and I have somebody type in their card, and I have somebody type in their number, and I show it, and I say, like, Jack of Hearts and number 47. And then I realise that's not going to be a hit. I go, you know, but I said we were going to change our mind. I want you to change your mind. Change it again. Change it again. Change the number. Every time I snap my fingers, I want you to change the number. Change it again. Go higher. Go lower. Go in the middle. Change it again. Change it again. Change it again. Stop. What's that number? Okay, 23. Let's put 23 in. There you go. 23 in Jack of Hearts. Is that fair? Yeah. Boom. So I don't think that 10% of the time it doesn't work. I think that's even better, especially when I'm performing with the website, because when I'm performing with the website, I'm telling them I want to make this completely impossible. If you've got more than 5%, we need to get that down because I want this to be completely impossible. But you could say that's a drawback. Some reviewers might say that it's a drawback. Trying to think of other things that people might say is a drawback. I don't think you can say that the deck can't be examined as a drawback, because they can. You see multiple videos, multiple performance videos of me, and I purposefully did this because people said the quantum deck couldn't be examined. So in all of the live performances, you see me saying to people, please check the deck, because they have no interest in checking the deck. So I pick the deck up and I immediately put it in their hands, and you'll see those performance videos, and I go, please check the deck, please check it. I really want you to check the deck, have a look at it. And they're not going to see anything. But I suppose you could say that it's a gaff deck, and that's an issue. You could say that it is a deck that does this one trick and one trick only. You could say that's an issue, although I don't think that's a problem when the effect that you're getting is so strong. And the only other thing that I think that people could say is that you know, you have to have some sort of method to get the information you need. And that's where, you know, a couple of reviewers have said, well, the website thing is ridiculous. One, I love the website method, but if you don't like the website method, there's so many other ways of doing it. Like I said, I'm not going to retread old ground, but use the Notes app, use the video method, go one ahead, do one of the other methods that Pete talks about. It doesn't have to be having your spectator go to a particular website, but it's better for me. What this allows me to do is it allows me to just put the cards into the hands of the spectator, have a card and a number named, and then just pick up the cards and deal. It allows me to walk out on stage and get 500 people in an audience involved on a trick that just uses a deck of cards. And for me, that's the real power behind the atomic deck. So the next question is, can you perform it over Zoom? And the answer is yes. In fact, I go through a Zoom handling. Zoom is amazing because if you want to perform it over Zoom, I just put the deck down on the table. You'll see, if you go look at the trailer and you look at the performance with Mark Paul, I use the Zoom handling. With the Zoom handling, I have my phone just off the side of the screen. So this is in view, and I'm just using the input method, the video input method, and I'm just going boom, 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 and I'm getting the information. So I take the cards out of the case and I deal. It's great, and if it doesn't work, I just reframe over the camera. So absolutely, 100%. Yes, you can do it over Zoom. In fact, if you perform in any sort of virtual environment, or you sometimes speak to clients over Zoom and you want to show them something that will blow their mind, this is an incredible trick to do. Okay, so the next question is, how easy is it to learn the trick? That's a great question. The answer is very, very easy. In fact, we tried to do something with the atomic deck that I've never seen done before. I contacted Tom Wright. You guys might know Tom Wright. He's an incredible magician in the UK. And Tom didn't really know what the atomic deck was. So I performed it for him over Zoom, absolutely blew him away. He then wanted me to show him again, so I repeated it for him, blew him away even more. And then I said, right, he was like, how does it work? And I was like, look, I tell you what, I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to try and teach you this in 5 minutes so that you can actually tell me how this is done. And I set a timer and I went, go. After 6 minutes, he understood the method completely. He knew exactly what was happening. He knew exactly what to do. And that was 6 minutes in. Now, it was over Zoom, and he hadn't actually got the cards in his hand, but he knew exactly what he needed to do to present and perform the trick. And because the trick is completely self-working, and all you have to do is deal cards onto the table, that is something that he will do immediately. So yeah, it's very, very easy to learn. We included a quick start guide on the tutorial. The tutorial's not even that long. It's a bit longer because Pete Turner got involved and has some amazing information on ACAN in general. But outside of that, yeah, it's very, very easy to do. You'll be doing it straight away. Okay, so somebody else said on one of the YouTube videos out there, how can there be a probability of 70% according to the website? Surely it's impossible for it to have a 70% probability. And I didn't understand what it meant, and I think I know what it meant. So after speaking to Josh, so when we first developed the unistats.org website, because we were testing it initially, there was, when we were taking cards and putting them out of range, we were just setting a really high percentage at random. So sometimes it would be 70%, it would be 80%. This was when we were testing it in-house to make sure all the statistics behind the scenes worked. And then when we got to the point where we actually started performing it, I said to Josh, well, you know what? We need to keep this. 70% is ridiculous. High percentages are ridiculous. We need to set it so it's between 5 to 7%. So if there's a miss, if it's saying that it's not going to work, you know, it needs to be between 5 or 7%. So we changed it, we updated the code, absolutely not a problem. After Christmas, and I performed at the P3 Theatre, literally just after Christmas, Josh updated the website and did a full update. We changed a whole bunch of stuff around. And at that point, he didn't realise, but it reverted back to the original percentages. So there was a period of time for about 3 weeks, maybe a month, where if somebody had gone onto the website that watched me do it on the Penguin Holiday Special and they were trying to put in cards and numbers, it would show a high percentage, like 50% or 60%, which is insane. You know, that should never happen. And when Josh realised this, he reverted it back to the old code. And now if you go check out unistats.org and you throw in a card and a number, you'll never get more than sort of 6% because that's how it works. It shows you 5 or 6%. If it doesn't work, anything less than that, it's less than 5%, which tells you everything that you need to know. So that's the only thing I can think of that you mean with that. The person who has this question, there is no probability of 70%. Okay, so this question came up a lot, and I think I've already covered it, but I'll mention it again. Can it be any card at any number? Surely there is a shift. No, there is no shift at all. You're not shifting the cards. That's one thing that we absolutely wanted to get away from. And the person that was making this comment was like, it's impossible to have any card appear at any position in the deck. And you're right, it is impossible for any card to be at any position in the deck. But it's 90% possible. And so, like I said before, with that 10%, you know that that's not going to work, and you can reframe it, and you can have them change their mind on either the card, the value, or the position. But there's no shift, nothing like that, no invisible cutting. They can literally name any card and any number. Okay, so the next question is, how much is it going to be? It's going to be $49.99. So that's going to be less in the UK because obviously you have to convert it to pounds, but it's basically going to be $50. Okay, so the next question is, can it be in bicycle stock? And the answer is no. We have used these Copperheads Viper Finish. These are amazing cards by the Legends Playing Card Company, and they are fantastic. Now, you can get regular decks of these if you want to. So you can get regular Copperhead cards, and if you wanted to kind of switch the deck, maybe after you've performed this, you switch it for a regular deck and do some other stuff, or maybe you do something and then you do this to finish or whatever, you can do that. You can switch the deck, but Bicycle wouldn't be able to do what we needed this to do. It's absolutely impossible. So no, it can't be on Bicycle stock. We went for Copperheads because they're very common. The Legends Playing Card Company are amazing to deal with, and you can get many matching regular decks to match it. Okay, so the next question is number 12. Oh God, I don't know. I struggle with rough and smooth. Is that an issue? That's come up a couple of times. Well, no, it's not an issue because it doesn't use rough and smooth. It uses something that replicates rough and smooth, but it is not rough and smooth. But because it replicates it, there's no sticky stuff or anything like that. So people that struggle to separate rough and smooth, you don't need to separate rough and smooth with this deck. It's also almost impossible to do because of how the trick works. You know, if I was trying to do an invisible deck with this, I wouldn't be able to do it. It just wouldn't work. I mean, that is a double, believe it or not. That's a double right there, you know. Look at that. Here you go. Double, 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 double. Single, 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 double, you know, so on and so forth. You don't, it works itself. When you realize how strong this deck is and you realize exactly what it does, good God, this is absolutely amazing. So if you've got issues with rough and smooth, it's totally not a problem because you don't really need to know. It's not rough and smooth. It's just not rough and smooth, so you're not going to have an issue with it. Next question, can you use it for multiple spectators? And the answer is yes, with every input method. So you've seen me perform it to a big group of people. I've talked about the stage performance. If you're performing to a group of 4 or 5 people, you can use the website method for 4 or 5 people. But the notes page allows multiple spectators as well. So you can give your phone to 5 or 6 people and have each one of them write down a card and a number. And you'll know immediately which one of those will work, and so you can have them pick one and you can use that card and that number. So yeah, absolutely, you can use multiple spectators, not a problem at all. This one has already been answered, but I'm going to just quickly mention it because a couple of people said this. Can the spectator deal the cards? No, the spectator cannot deal the cards. You can put the cards in the spectator's hand before and after the routine, but they cannot deal the cards. You have to deal the cards for them. This question came up again, so I'm just going to answer it just to be clear. What's the deck design? It's called the Legends Copperheads, and it's by the Legends Playing Card Company. You can get them from, I believe a lot of magic shops will sell them, but you can get them direct from the Legends Playing Card Company as well. They're beautiful cards. Okay, so the next question is, what about the video where you have extra cards in your hands? Can you explain this? So Murphy's put up a performance video of me performing this to 3 girls, right? And they named 48. I'm sure some of you have seen that performance. They named 48. And so I dealt through to the 48th card, and there were a few cards left in my hand. There were more than 48, right? There were more than 48. There were more than 6 cards left in my hand. There should have been 6 cards left in my hand, but there were more than 6. And a couple of people have said, well, you know, won't people notice that? Well, the first thing is, no, they won't notice it. And the reason they won't notice it is just watch the video. Look at how much they freak out when I'm in this situation. I go, right, okay, so this is your, sorry, let's have a look here. This is your card. What was the name of your card? King of Hearts. Boom, there it is. So first of all, no, because I talk about this on the tutorial. When you're in this situation, you're focusing attention on their hands. You're not focusing attention on the deck. You're holding the deck slightly back into your hand like this, so that there's no attention on, look, if I'm holding the deck in a dealing grip like that, you can't see how many cards are left. And the other thing is, when I have this card, I give it to the spectator, and I immediately just put these cards back here like this, holding a break, so that afterwards I can put that king right back into the position it needs to go into. And I talk about that. And to be honest, one of the reasons we included this video is because on the tutorial, we wanted to talk through what happens in that situation. Now, the other thing is that rarely happens, because a lot of the time, most people don't name a very high number. If they name a very high number, you can just tell them to change their mind. And that's what I said I love about this trick. I love the fact that you can get them to change their mind again and again and again and again. So if they say 48, you go, great, now I want you to change your mind to a different number. Now change it again to a different number. Now go lower. Now go somewhere in the middle. Now go higher. Now go lower. Now keep changing and keep changing it, keep changing it, keep changing it. Right, what's that number? And you can change it very, very easily. So if you've got a high number, you can change it without any worries at all. You don't have to worry about it. But even if you don't want to change it and you have that high number, the other thing is, statistically, it's very rare to have more cards in your hand than you should have. The reason that happened is because of the particular combination of card and number that she picked. I ended up having to deal a lot of singles instead of doubles. Normally, I'd be in this kind of situation where I've apparently got the correct amount of cards. So it's very rare for that situation to come up. Can it happen? Yes, which is why we included the performance on the tutorial, and which is why we put it up on social media, because we wanted to be completely transparent with people. Tell me anybody that's more transparent than me or Lloyd when it comes to marketing this particular trick. Lloyd has done a video on his channel where he basically just breaks down everything. I'm doing this Q&A where I'm not holding anything back. I've been very honest on the cafe and answered any and all questions, despite the fact that certain people on the cafe being very abrupt. And not only that, in about a week's time, I'm going to do a full exposure video. So, you know, we've been completely honest here, but yeah, will that happen occasionally? Very, very rarely? Yes. Can you, is it an issue? No. Are there ways to get around it so you don't actually have that happen? Absolutely. But you'd find out that if you watch the tutorial. But yeah, that's totally not an issue at all. Okay, so penultimate question, what's the golden ticket? Well, a couple of people contacted me and said, what's the golden ticket got to do with the trick? The golden ticket is nothing to do with the trick. There is one golden ticket somewhere out in the world, in an atomic deck. Somebody will have a golden ticket. If you get a golden ticket, and there is only one, there's 5 silvers, 1 gold. If you get a golden ticket, you get flown over to California. You get to meet me. We get to go around we get to go around the Murphy's warehouse. We have a $1,000 spending spree. You get to pick anything you want. I'll help you choose. And then you jump in on my new product that I'll be filming at Murphy's HQ. And you will be the co-host. And you'll get a copy of it months before it even comes out. So that's what happens if you got the golden ticket. If you get the silver tickets, you have a private Zoom session with me, and you get $300 of my magic. It's got nothing to do with the trick. It's just we really wanted to promote this. We really wanted people to see how amazing this is, and we wanted to put a really cool giveaway behind it, which is why the golden ticket and the Willy Wonka thing is happening. And the final question is, what if you don't like Craig? Genuinely, there's a couple of people that have gone on social media and they've said, oh, if it's a trick by Craig, it's a no. Well, then don't buy it. If you don't like me, I'm really sorry. There's nothing I can do to change that. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I know some people don't particularly like me for whatever reason. And look, here's the thing. I know, you know, I don't want to get into any controversy anymore. I'm not that guy. I don't know if you've noticed, I don't really rant anymore. I don't rant, not really. I just don't rant. I'm trying to avoid controversy. Stuff comes up all of the time and I just try to ignore it. I know that there's going to be a certain reviewer that has already made his mind up about me and about this trick and has openly said that I'm not a particularly nice person. And I know he's going to try and do everything that he can to make me look bad. And that's absolutely fine. That's his prerogative. He can do whatever he wants to do. All I can do is present to you what I think is the best trick I've ever created. A lot of people said when Big Blind came out earlier in the year, that's the best trick Craig's ever created. I think it's the Atomic deck. I really do. I've spent years trying to create the perfect ACAN. I have published more ACAN than most magicians put together. And this is the final ACAN. This is the final version. I think I've peaked. I don't think I can do a better version of ACAN than this. It's a personal challenge of mine to come up with the perfect ACAN, the holy grail, and I genuinely believe that this is the holy grail when it comes to any card at any number. There are no other questions. I hope that's been informative. The trick is out in a couple of days. If you are at Blackpool, there's a very good chance you might have bought one already, in which case, thank you very much. If you came up and saw me demo it, either on the Magic TV stand or the Penguin stand, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to start seeing reviews for this product. I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm telling you one thing. This is designed to be performed in the real world. It's not the sort of thing that you put in your bottom drawer. It's not the sort of thing that you put away and you never do. This is designed to be actually performed. And I can't wait to see people perform it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you're excited about the Atomic deck. I hope I've covered any questions, but I promise you, if you leave any other questions down below, I will answer them I will reply to you. So any questions you've got about the Atomic deck, leave them down below. And remember, next week there's going to be a normal Q&A. So make sure you've got any questions that you want answering are left down below, and I will get to them next week's Q&A, whatever it is. And outside of that, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing Sunday. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.